Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog, Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in pints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is the heir to the empire himself, Frank. How are you today?
I'm blue. Dabba-dee, dabba-die.
Ooh, that was good. That was a good one, Frank. I gotta say, that was you rolled right into it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm pretty proud of that.
I appreciate it. Are you blue in the way that your skin is blue? Are you sad, in need of life direction, or are your eyes so piercing that you must be wearing contacts? Which blue are you?
I am the kind of blue where I am clearly the more talented brother of the pair.
Yeah, that's it. You nailed it. Very good. You nailed it.
The more talented Mickelson brother. It's me.
Oh, is that true? Oh, no. I don't want to make that judgment call today. Not here on Beer with Geeks, where we're here to talk about our geeky stuff with our beer. Frank, before we get into the geeky thing that is today, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking something exciting. You've been drinking spirits on the show the last few weeks.
I have been drinking spirits. I am in the spirit of Halloween, Frank, so therefore I'm drinking spirits.
Well, I still only have light beers in my fridge, and I was like, I don't want to, I want to drink something more interesting. So I pulled out this from my closet.
What is that?
It is a spiced rum old-fashioned that has been aged in whiskey barrels. It is local legend spiced rum with spices and natural flavors, distilled and bottled by Ski Bum Rum in North Adams, Massachusetts. We picked this up last winter when we went to the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts for a couple of days, and we stopped at this distillery, and we liked what we had there, so we picked up a bottle, and so it's a rum old fashioned aged in whiskey barrels, and it's delightful.
That sounds delightful. I actually don't like old fashions though, so it sounds delightful in the way that I'm glad you're enjoying it, but I don't want that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it was filled with a different spirit or something, I would.
Right.
Yeah.
You like rum though, right? Just not in.
Actually,
you don't like old fashions.
Funny. So I haven't had rum. Peek behind my stomach curtain. I haven't had rum since college, maybe.
Okay.
It does not agree with me.
Okay. Fair enough.
Anymore. It's too heavy. I just don't. I don't like it. So, but I probably should try it again, maybe. Just for the sake of trying it. But no, I've moved on to. I'm a whiskey
Not your
guy
thing. Yeah,
now.
you're a whiskey guy now.
Mm-hmm.
But and gin guy, I asked.
Oh yeah, I'll never not be a gin guy. I feel like
a gin guy.
But today,
what are you enjoying? Are you having a beer today, though?
I'm having a beer today. It's so funny that you're drinking a spirit. So
that's okay. It keeps it. It's the spiced rum of life.
Oh, you nailed it. You're good. So I am drinking a Life on Marzen Oktoberfest.
Oh, that's fantastic!
Isn't that great? This is from the
what a great name.
This is from the Berkshire Brewing Company. So funny that
you
said
Berkshire. Okay, we got Berkshire in common there.
We do. It's just pretty. As far as Oktoberfest go, it's pretty light.
Really?
Yeah. Even
Marzen.
Yeah, it's you know how some Oktoberfest tend to they're veering on. They're more veering on like a brown ale than a lager, but this is it's sitting comfortably in the lager territory. Maybe because we're on Mars, so there's some light gravity going on where we're not our full heavy selves. But I wanted this one. I saved this one particularly because it's October. You got to drink Oktoberfest in October. which is as close as I could get to a thematic drink for today's episode.
I like what you've done.
Thank you. I wish that we were talking about The Martian, because then it would be perfect.
Yes.
But instead, we are talking about Disney Plus's newest entry into the Star Wars saga. That is, of course, Star Wars Ahsoka, starring Rosario Dawson, among many other people. Let's do non-spoiler, just elevator. What did you think? And then we'll get into spoilers.
I liked it.
Great.
I dug it.
I also dug it, Frank. I dug it a lot, to be perfectly honest. Potentially more than other things that I've dug in Star Wars for a little while.
Yeah. I would co-sign that. Yeah.
And that is not to say that I haven't dug things from Star Wars, because Mando's been great. Andor was fantastic. I really enjoyed Kenobi. So there's been a lot of good Star Wars, but this to me felt like Star Wars in a way that obviously the other ones do too, but because it was so intricately, oh my gosh, why is that a hard word? It was quite well linked to, interwoven with a lot of previous Star Wars fabrics to create something new. It felt very comfortable in a way that seemed familiar yet fresh, which is what good Star Wars tends to do, right? Familiar and fresh.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I will say, you it really helps if you have some familiarity with Rebels, Star Wars Rebels, because a lot of the lore from that show carries over. So I will say that if you're thinking about, if you haven't seen Rebels, you don't have to, but it sure would help.
I'm glad that you said that, Frank, because my wife has not seen a single second of Rebels, and she has not seen she's definitely seen a few seconds of the Clone Wars, because she's like walked into the room while I've been watching it, let's say, or something. But she did not watch either of them. It has been many a year since she saw a Star Wars prequel. Okay. And I'm going to say that's I would say the things that you need. And she loved this.
Nice.
Yep. Occasionally needed a context somewhere, like early on, be like, oh, they all know each other because they were on Rebels together. And she went, okay. And she went, okay. And that's really all she needed, because as a viewer of those things, you think, you're like, wow, they're going deep, and they like included this, and this, and this, and this. But you didn't actually need to know any of that to enjoy what we were watching. And I think I'm going to stop here and do spoilers, because it's hard.
I was going to say, we can't really go much further on this without getting into spoilers. Yeah.
All right. So you had a thought. So go ahead. Please continue.
I think I agree with you on the whole. The one thing, the one like pushback I would have is that I think you might not know what you're missing. Like, there's a lot about the relationships between the characters. There's a lot about, I mean, even just Thrawn.
Yep.
Thrawn, if you don't know his backstory, it's sort of like, why is everyone afraid of him? Like, why?
It's funny that you said that, because I would think so too. But I think you've been hearing his name since Mandalorian season 2. Like,
but did she remember that, or
she did remember that? Actually,
she did. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think if you're told enough, so like, I think of it this way: Voldemort doesn't show up in Harry Potter in like the flesh, let's say the actual flesh, until the fourth story.
Right.
But you're told that he's scary for a long time. So by the time he shows up, you're like, oh, I know he's scary because they told me that, And so you have, let's just take Ahsoka and not anything else, but you have a whole show where every episode they're like, Thrawn, he's scary. Like,
yeah.
So like, you don't really need to know why he's scary. He just is. And when when Lars Mikkelsen shows up, when you actually get Thrawn, he does a great job at being scary, like, and I would say even the direction of the show grandizes him. Grand Admiral Thrawn-izes him.
Yes.
And so like, I almost think of it like the Emperor in Empire to Jedi, where they're just like, or in New Hope, they're like, the Emperor, the end. And then the second one, you're like, floating head, you seem a little scary. But by the time he like shows up in Jedi, and he just like kind of walks down and the music's there, and like the show does, the movie does enough for you to be like, this is important and he's scary, and you don't even need to see why any of it works until that moment. It just is based on
I know what you mean, but like you know more, like he rules this empire, like you see what his foot soldiers have been doing and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. In this, if you don't know who Thrawn is, they talk about him, they don't, one thing I really wish they had done would be like, oh, like that thing that happened at the Battle of Mandalore or whatever, like even just sure. Like, oh, that time that he, whatever, made 5 Star Destroyers seem like 50, like whatever it is, like to have to even refer to it in dialogue to kind of.
Well, I think I would
show and not tell. I think that would be sort of telling, but
I think I would agree with you if I wasn't watching with somebody who didn't have that context and and did get it.
I think that's fair, but I think that she might be more. She might be better suited to like pick up on a lot of those things, maybe because of big exposure to stuff through you. I don't know. I've heard a lot of criticism of this show. Is really what I'm getting at. I liked it a lot, but I've heard a lot of criticism.
Oh, really? I mean, I've been internet MIA, so I have no idea.
The people who I talked to about Star Wars, like at work and stuff like that, who were like really into, say, Andor, were really not into this show. Or varying degrees, not really into this show. Where I was like, but I like it, and they were like, yeah, no, I don't. That's not for me.
Interesting.
Heard
Why
one
is
person say, I think Dave Filoni should never touch Star Wars again, which I was like, whoa, those are fighting words.
What?
I don't think you know what you're talking about.
No.
But this person's also kind of a prequel hater. So if I were like, he studied at George's lap, then they'd be like, well, that's even more reason why he should,
Oh, okay. Well, I would put it this way. If you're a prequel hater, then you're basically a hater of most Star Wars.
Yeah. And this spins out of the prequels. So
correct.
You're going to have issues with that. I thought, what did you think of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka in this series? Obviously, we've seen her play the character before, but this is the most time we got to spend with her.
I think that her version of, I mean, she's quite recognizably Ahsoka, not just like in the orange skin or, anything like that. I think she did an excellent job at studying the facial movements of the animation and making sure that she smirked the right way, like her eyes glittered the right way. Her intonation was there. I found the characterization of Ahsoka a little like cold, but
okay, yes.
Yeah, but I think that was obviously on purpose from the start to the end, because Ahsoka is quite a warm and feisty character. And so when we see her when she's middle-aged, let's say, she's supposed to be in her 40s, 50s, right? Somewhere in there.
Must be,
like obviously her teenage feistiness is long gone, but she is still the student of a feisty master. Mm-hmm. And so she has never really lost that side, but we see it through a calmness that we haven't really experienced with her. I'd say outside of Rebels, because she actually does have a bit of it in Rebels. To an
yes, she does have it in Rebels. Yeah.
So if you were to hop from Clone Wars to this, I'd say that it is a fairly big difference in characterization.
For sure.
But like if you were to look at, I don't know, like in the future 50-year-old me and look at 15-year-old me. Like, well, sure. There's probably a big difference there too. So,
of course, it's the would Luke act this way 30 years later thing all over again?
Correct.
Right? It's like, of course they could act that way. It's
of course
so much time has passed. And they've been through so much.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm not a full sequel defender by any stretch, but I'm a defender of that characterization of Luke, because I'm like, no, Luke would definitely act like that. Like, if you watch Return of the Jedi. And knew, like, that's Luke. There he is. Even bits of Empire Strikes Back, not Return of the Jedi, but like there he is. That's it. Yep. What are we doing here? We're wasting our time, Master, moving stones is one thing, but this is totally different. Like,
always
with Luke, it cannot be done, right? And I don't think
right.
That's just who he is. And I don't think, if more bad stuff happens to him, that's just going to compound that feeling inside of him. It'd be hard to combat that. But Ahsoka is, the show does a really good job at like characterizing that she is a child of war. Right. And so like a lot of bad stuff has happened and she's like never really stopped fighting ever. Including the very people that are supposed to have believed in her and supported her and like all the stuff. Like I think it says something very clearly that her like one companion is a droid, who is willing to push back at her because her entire life that we've seen from the start of Clone Wars till now is getting pushed back on, for whether it's Anakin pushing back on her to make some lessons or it's the Jedi or so on and so on and so on from there. So she felt true to me, especially by the end of the show. What did you think?
Yes, I think she started kind of cold, kind of removed and aloof and warmed up over the course of the series. I mean, in particular, getting to see her reunited with Anakin was obviously huge for all sorts of reasons. And then I think her sort of smoothing things out with Sabine by the end of the season also contributed to that. And so it's showing you a warmer side of Ahsoka and rounding her out a little bit more.
Yeah, which I appreciated that she did have an arc, which it's very hard because like when we first meet her in The Mandalorian, you're not exactly sure where she is. She's actually warmer in The Mandalorian than she is at the start of this show, right? But like we're not necessarily meant to gloss over that, but like her color is reflective of where she is, right? She's in this dark-ish place for her, which is a nice parallel to Bail and Skull in Shanti, right? Because they're also in a dark place. So you have these two groups who are neither of the Jedi nor of the Sith. They're in this in-between gray space, gray Jedi, if you will, to go into the Legends language, right? You have these gray Jedi who are walking this line between like being on the good side and being on the bad side, but they're like in for themselves because they don't have masters. And that's what this whole show is about, right? Masters and apprentices. Like it's oh my gosh, what's the witch's name? Not Meredith. What's her name? The Bruce Lee's daughter. What's her character's name? They fought
Sabine?
No, the bad one. The Dathomir.
Morgan Elsbeth.
Morgan Elsbeth, thank you. I knew it started with an M, and I just couldn't remember her name. So, like, Morgan Elsbeth is an apprentice in search of her master, whether that be like the Dathomir witches and Thrawn.
Yes.
You have Balin and Shanti. You have Sabine and Ahsoka.
Right.
And to an extent, you even have Hera and Jason. Right.
Jason.
So everybody's on this little like master apprentice thing, but none of them have masters. They're all like basically learning. And some like we see the full resolution of that arc, and some we don't. Like like we see the resolution of that with Ahsoka and Sabine, and obviously Morgan Elsbeth and Thrawn. But like Bail and Skull and Shanti are like still in search of that thing, of that like of direction, because that's what masters and apprentices do. They like masters give their apprentices direction.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's right.
And because Anakin was basically taken from Ahsoka early, like she left, but he was also like taken by the dark side, and then death.
Yes.
Then she's been missing that direction in her life because she walked away from it, and she's never really reclaimed it because she's just been moving from fight to fight to fight, never really working on herself. So I actually that was really well thought out. I just liked that's what really worked for me in this whole show. Plus it was slow, and to me, like, good Star Wars is a little slow. Maybe.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that is very true.
Yeah.
I think it's also, I think we will look back on this show more fondly. I think it will age really well. And I say that because I think that there's a lot of Filoni content yet to come that this is setting up. And that when we look back, I think it will age well and it will be remembered well.
If there's one thing you can say about Dave Filoni is that, like, it's rarely well received at first. And then it just blossoms into a thing. You just gotta let him, like, test his waters a little bit each time.
So,
that was the same with Clone Wars. It was the same with Rebels. And I think it's going to be the same here too. But I think this is his strongest start that we've seen out of like his. Well, let's say maybe I don't think Resistance really had much to play with or any place to go. But
that was a kid. Really
they're also working against like. I'd say they were actually working with like inferior material too. They were. They were like, this isn't your idea or what you're with. You just like are stuck with the Resistance.
Yeah,
sorry, you are.
That's right.
It's kind of crummy. Good luck. So I don't know. I just really I liked the whole thing, and at the end of it, it was like beautifully designed. It really needed into the mythology side or the fantasy side of Star Wars, in which like the Mandalorian was like clearly the Western side of Star Wars, and so it's nice just to see the other kind of main show. Well, they're all kind of doing a thing, right? So like if the Mandalorian is the Western side, Andor is the politics of Star Wars, and then and so then you have Ahsoka, which is the fantasy side or the samurai side or whatever the Joseph Campbell side of Star Wars, and not to say that like Mandalorian doesn't touch upon those things, because obviously it does, in its own way, especially season 3. But but like nary was a blaster in sight in this.
Yeah, that's so true.
It was like all lightsabers almost exclusively all the time, and I just really appreciated the amount of thought that went into all of that. Yeah. Dave Filoni also understands that good Star Wars will give us a cute alien race, and he delivered.
He did deliver.
He delivered.
He delivers consistently on that. Honestly, God bless him.
Yeah. What about some of the other characters that we know from other shows? Sabine, Hera, Ezra.
I loved Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera. I love her in virtually everything she's in, but I really, really liked her in this role. Yeah,
I did too. Hera's tough because Hera is like the matriarch of whatever room she's in.
Yeah, that's right.
But matriarch in the like, I'm also going to kick your butt kind of way. And that's, I think, a little hard. It's hard to pull off warm yet ferocious. I guess ferocious is actually pretty decent, but I think she does a good job. I liked it. I think she got better with each progressive episode. Like, she was also like learning her character. Rosario Dawson had 2 different appearances to like shape Ahsoka first.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Whereas everybody else was starting from scratch. But I really liked her too. It is interesting how much Dave wanted to keep to his original designs, like down to the eye color, like everybody, like so many contacts.
I know everybody had contacts.
Yeah, and I mean, like for Hera and Ahsoka and whatever, it all makes sense. But when you get to Ezra, you're like, was it necessary, or was it the actor's eyes? Because sometimes people have blue eyes.
Could be.
But I really liked Hera. The inclusion of Jason was great. It annoyed me inside that I didn't realize that Jason was named for Jason Solo until this show. Like, I don't know why I never connect. Like, maybe because the closed captioning was on and I saw it spelled, and I was like,
that would. Yeah, once you read it,
right. Obviously, he's named for Jason Solo. Yes, good. I liked that. The kid did a nice job.
He did a great job. Yeah.
The actress who played Sabine, I thought was excellent. thought she was very good. Sabine is not a character I like took to in Rebels. I don't know about you, but like she just wasn't. I didn't love Rebels to be like from start to finish. Like I liked it; it was fine. But I just wanted it to be like a little bit more than it was.
Yeah,
I guess
I feel the same way. Yeah. I think it had a slow start also. And it did some really, really cool stuff. Like it did some really, really up there with some of the best Star Wars storytelling that there is. I think I sincerely feel that way. But yeah, it definitely is slow in parts.
Yeah. Which again, sometimes a good Star Wars is slow, but there is too slow at the same time.
Yeah.
But I didn't really but I liked her characterization in this show. Everything worked for me. Right down to her hair, like was really cool. All of it, of it was good. But truthfully, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think Ezra like practically stole the show for me.
Really?
Like, I mean, like I would say maybe Rosario Dawson stole the show, or Lars Mikkelsen stole the show, or whatever, or Chopper frickin' stole the show. Like
Chopper was great.
He was great, but I just thought that actor was. I'm not using my one lookup for this, but I just thought he was wonderful because I never took to Ezra on the show, like, at all. I found him, like, the weakest link of the Rebels cast. And just, like, not maybe by season 3 he had more to do, but, like, the wide-eyed, like, okay, gang, let's do this. He was just, like, a little too full of himself, and I just, like, a little whatever. So I just loved seeing this, like, really brash, angry kid become this, like calm, centered, lovable guy. And like I just like when like Sabine tries to give him his lightsaber and he's like, no, the Force is my ally. And then he proved it. And then he like did it.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Like I love
that. Was very cool.
It was really cool.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. To just see somebody use the Force in a unique way. Or just like as like, no, I'm not defenseless. I have the Force. Like it was so lovely to see that kind of faith in the Force himself, whatever. Like I loved all of that. What about you? What were some of your favorite thingies?
I mean, Lars Mikkelsen was, if someone stole the show for me, it was him. I think he's the more talented Mikkelsen brother. I do. I like Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
And I think he's excellent in a number of films. But I think Lars, look, he already was the character in animation, and now he gets to be him in live action. So he really has an ownership of it. He's the only, maybe apart from some video games, the only person to ever play this character. Isn't that true?
I do believe that is correct. Yeah.
In animation and now in live action. Like he is the only Thrawn performer.
Yep.
So he really owns this character in a very real way. And I think he really, like, he made a meal of what he was given. I really, really liked him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was, maybe that's part of what I was saying before, is like, I was like wanting more. I wanted him to like do like an all-out evil, like, but he was so reserved and held it in so much, and there was such tension in the way that he did that.
You wanted like this is maybe not the greatest example, but you wanted like a Lex Luthor style, or no, you wanted like a Michael Corleone take them all out while reciting baptismal vows moment or something like that.
Yes. The equivalent of the Vader scene in Rogue One, or the equivalent of that's the best example I can think of.
Okay.
But like a big
intellectual version of Vader's,
an
like,
intellectual version of that. Yes, a Thrawn appropriate version of that.
Yeah. Or like a more. Well, I mean, like I said to my wife when we were watching it, like, you know, like without any context, I said he's basically like the Moriarty of Star Wars. That's the best way I can describe Thrawn. And she said, yeah, I got that by like watching it. Like, it's like pretty clear that he's very smart and he knows what he's doing. And so, and I liked that. Like, I knew that watching the show, and she knew that just by watching the show, and I had context and she did it, and she was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there for you. In terms of symbolism or just in kind of a parallel, I did very much enjoy. He was just straight up Hitler. Like, the way he moved, his hair, everything. Like,
he like not really.
He just decided not to grow a tiny little mustache while
really,
in exile.
Yeah. Like they thought that would be too on the nose, but yeah, that's about it. That's about the only thing he didn't do.
Yeah, I just
yeah,
he was excellent. So
I really dug it. Yeah,
yeah. So were the Witches of Dathomir. That was very fun for me to see in live action, and like I'm not a huge Clone Wars guy, but like it was enough for me to be like, that's very cool. That's very cool.
I have a particular affinity for that story arc because I got to see that in a theater back when I was at an internship where I used to get access like press screenings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They did a press screening of the Night Sisters arc that I got to go to in Manhattan.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was very cool. It was like the week before it began to air on TV. There was a press screening of it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. It was neat.
You're not a fantasy guy. We know this. It's well established.
Yes.
This was a heavily fantasy-esque show. How do you feel about that, considering it's, that's not your thing?
That was the stuff I was least interested in, to be honest. Like that was the Night Sisters stuff was cool for the reasons that I just said, but like it's not really my favorite to begin with.
So like zombie dark troopers or zombie stormtroopers weren't like
that was intriguing. That was interesting. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, the witch stuff, whatever. That's not really for me. Some of the Balin stuff was hit or miss for me. He's an interesting character. He and his, I can never remember his apprentice's name.
Shin-Ati.
I say it again.
Shin, like chin, but with an SH. Shin.
Yeah, that I got.
Ati.
I don't know why I can't remember.
Like
Shin-Ati.
I would like
a
I would like a tea.
Yeah.
Shin, could I have a tea, please? Yeah.
It's not even that I can't say it. I just can't commit it to mememory for some reason.
That's okay. I couldn't get Miranda Bellenswitch. What's her name? Morgan Elsbeth. I don't know why that name does not stick in my brain.
See, same.
Yes, I understand.
Yes.
Yeah, they are named after the bringers of Ragnarok in Norse mythology. Which is very fun. And so, like, obviously, because they're the bringers of, Thranarok. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that it's very. I like that. I also like that their story's not done. Like, I really like. They're not that they were underutilized. Like, they served their purpose. But once Thrawn showed up, everyone was like smushed to the side.
Totally.
Like,
totally,
it was all in favor of getting Thrawn, which is fine because it's Thrawn. Like that, building to that particular moment. It would have felt weird if he showed up and he wasn't there,
Mm-hmm.
But I just like I want to see where all of that's going because I just, as far as like costume design and everything like that, like Shin-Ati looks like Joan of Arc. Like she's Joan of Arc with bleach blonde hair. It's not by accident that you have this like warrior woman called to do something, you know what I mean? Like searching for meaning in her life. Like none of that's by accident. Dave Filoni is too smart for that. And like, I mean, and this is the guy that's like, well, Ahsoka was wearing dark clothes, so that's representative of like her darkness or whatever, where she's possibly going. And now she's wearing white. She's Ahsoka the White, like she's Ahsoka the Gray, and then she died, and then she's Ahsoka the White. And she had her Jonah moment, in the belly of the whale where she really thought about stuff and so on and so on and so forth. That's all the way he thinks about everything, right? And so I just like I want to see that. I just found the religious symbolism in the show like, yes, you think that? Good. Keep thinking that.
Yeah.
Like it wanted that. Yes.
Yeah.
To draw upon the things that you know. It is very, very much liked all of that. What about Hu Yang? We haven't talked about him.
What like shot to the top of my list of like favorite new droids
right
in a long
like,
time.
What is that?
Yeah,
in a show that
David
actually
Tennant,
had C-3PO.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
Right,
Yeah,
one of the best droids, if
come
not
from,
the best droid of all time. Oh my gosh, yeah. The unexpected cameo I didn't know I wanted.
I know, fantastic. Was so happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
But David Tennant, you can't go wrong with David Tennant.
No, and he delivered. Like
he totally
it was
did.
not a phone booth performance.
I bet we see him again because he's been training Jedi for however long he said.
Oh, yeah,
I bet we
500
see him
years.
in
He's definitely going to be in the Acolyte. You're right. I didn't think about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you smart, Frank. You're smart.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, I bet that's what that's the Jude Law one, right? The Acolyte.
No, that's Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew. Yes, sorry.
The Acolyte is the 100 years before the Phantom Menace. I think that's what it's something like that.
Yeah.
So it's the dark side perspective of the infiltration of the Jedi.
That's right. Yes. Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think you're right. I think we will see him again.
I think that's where and we could see him in other stories too if they decide to do stuff in that era.
Sure.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I think laying groundwork there. But he was fantastic. Gosh, so Genevieve Riley back as
she's so good.
She's so great as now Chancellor.
Yeah. Mon Mothma.
Yeah.
Mothma. I want to say Mothra, like the giant moth, like
that's
Godzilla.
Moth, the Godzilla,
the kaiju, but Mothma. Yeah. Truthfully, if you told me that I'd become like a Mon Mothma stan, like, or something,
honestly,
like
I could have picked that for you.
Really?
Yes, I could have. Yeah. I would have actually.
She's just so cool.
She's so cool.
So
she is such a badass. I love her so much.
She is,
and I love that she now has this gig playing this character.
Right?
Pretty
she
much
was like in a cut scene from.
I know,
Revenge
20 years ago.
20 years ago, like, good for her. Really,
she didn't get to be in the movie, but now she's the go-to.
Now she's in many shows. Yeah, and she's like, absolutely, I will come back. Why the heck not? Paycheck, baby. And finally, I think we need to talk about Anakin Skywalker. We have not talked about our dear Hayden Christensen back again, looking great, like all across, just delivering. We've talked about this off the air, but just proving that he could do a very good job. And George Lucas is not an actor's director.
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh.
I know.
Like, if you think about, he's got to play a better, warmer version of his wooden self from the prequels. So still be like recognizably him, but also Matt Lanter, but also like it's really hard what he's doing.
No kidding.
And he's doing it really good. And I think, what did you say? Like, Dave, do you want to see Anakin as a flashback, a ghost, or a hologram? Like
all three,
please.
Let's do all three.
Like, yeah, we could fit on all three.
Why do I have to choose?
Yeah, right. And truthfully, I didn't expect there to be so much of him.
I didn't. I certainly didn't.
To just keep coming back, because I think from his perspective, he's also like, yeah, see, I can do it. Like, it's just very cool to see. Like, I didn't think. I knew seeing Anakin in his Clone Wars armor was a bucket list item that I never thought I would see. And here we are. Like, there it was. And actually, truthfully, that was the episode that my wife, that was the one that she lacked context.
Oh, sure. Okay.
The space between worlds, the Clone Wars, what Anakin was doing with her, and all of that, like, totally went over her head.
Yeah, sure.
And so that was where I was like, oh my gosh, he's like testing her. He's giving her one final lesson. Like, do you want to go down the dark side or not? Like, this is the final path of a Jedi. This is your trial. This is your Jedi trial.
Yes.
That you didn't get to do. And I loved all of it. But also just to see, also bucket list item, I knew I wanted it, but I finally got there 20 some odd years later. I got to see regular Anakin in his Jedi outfit fighting with a red lightsaber, because that's what we all wanted, remember?
Yeah,
he was going to turn to the dark side,
yeah.
and he was going to be a red lightsaber, and we were looking forward to seeing it, and it never happened, and Dave Filoni delivered yet again.
That's so true. Yeah.
It's so true. That is possible.
Nice.
Thanks. Yeah.
Any other, I don't know, anything we haven't covered that we shouldn't neglect to mention?
I don't think so. I'm sure there's a lot that I have not said, because while watching it, I was like, ooh, we should talk about that. Ooh, should talk about that. But that was last week, Frank. So
yeah, right.
Good luck getting that from me.
I feel like this could have been a Sabine series, because it basically was.
Yep.
In a lot of ways. And that's not a bad thing, at all. I don't mean that as a bad thing at all. It's just interesting.
I think you have. Why else would you say it? Yeah, no, just trying to paraphrase Anakin. I think you have. Why else would you be here?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Phantom Menace. Yeah, I follow.
Yeah.
I think that it was a very interesting sort of backdoor into having a Rebels season 5, 6. And I think that was very cool. I think it was very cool. It was a lot of, it delivered on a lot of long awaited things for fans.
Mm-hmm.
I think people who don't have all the context might be the people who had negative things to say about it, but I still think, and clearly your wife is proof, that you can not have all the context and still enjoy it. So
yep, I agree. And truthfully, it's Star Wars. There's so much like you can't go in, you can't just choose anything. Like it's a franchise, or it's an intellectual property. Like you don't have to see all of it, but you kind of at least have to see some of it before
you got to see some of it. Yeah,
just starting here, I think.
Mm-hmm,
yeah, it's very like you got to at least know the original trilogy to get get a lot of what's going on. But I think,
and that's true for most Star Wars, though. You have to have seen, at least to know the world, right? You have to have seen at least a couple of the movies, or maybe a trilogy, to at least be familiar with the setting,
right? Because they're not one and done stories, really. Even the original trilogy is not like on purpose. They're not one and done stories. So from Episode 4, but I think because so much of Star Wars is built around the prequel era, that you really do have to see the prequels to get anything.
Yes,
but
that's right. You have to see the prequels, and then you have to, if you don't care for the prequels, that means you have to sit through the prequels. So if that's if that's going to be hard for you, then
sure.
But this might be,
like I said, but my wife hasn't seen them in a long time, so maybe Ahsoka is still for you anyway, because at the end of it had some of the best lightsaber duels Star Wars has seen yet. It was really wonderful. So, Frank, where can people find us?
You can find us at beerwithgeeks.com. You can contact us at beerwithgeeks@gmail.com. You can support us either on Patreon and help us cover the cost to make this show, or by rating and reviewing and subscribing in any podcast app that you use. That's actually kind of it. That was out of order, but that's why it feels weird. But yeah, those are the beerwithgeeks.com. Get the show notes, all that fun stuff there.
They were a little out of order, Frank. I was a little confused, but I follow through. Beerwithgeeks.com for all of your Thought Bubble audio needs, or something like that. Anyway, Frank, it's great to talk to you as always. So until next time, cheers.
Cheers.